Hey everybody, in this next video lesson, I'm going to teach you how to name ionic compounds. Now, naming ionic compounds is a process, and once you learn that process, you can apply this process to every single ionic substance that you know or come across. But this process can get a little bit more complicated because there's a lot of different types of ionic compounds. We're going to start with the basics, naming ionic compounds of just binary ionic substances, or ionic substances that are made up of just two different types of atoms. Now, to begin naming ionic compounds, first you need an ionic compound. And so I'm going to start with the real simple one, NaCl. We all know this is common table salt, but how do I name it using chemistry conventions? How do I name it using words that chemists would use? Well, first, the cation, which is typically a metal, but not always keeps its name. So this is just sodium. Now, the second part of the name depends on what the anion is. And in this case, since an anion is just a single ion, then what we do is we drop the ending off of chlorine and add an IDE. So chlorine becomes chloride. And there you have it. Just two rules. The first element keeps its name, and the second drops the ending and adds IDE. And this process can be applied to lots of different examples, which I'm going to show you on the next slide. So let's apply this to a couple of examples that you see on this page. I jotted down the rules here at the top for naming basic binary ionic compounds. First element keeps its name, and the second element drops the ending and adds IDE. And so this first one, K2S, it's important to know that no matter if an element has a number behind it or not, in ionic substances, it doesn't affect the name. It doesn't affect the name regardless of how many you have. So you basically just disregard the little numbers when you're naming ionic substances. So just like I said, the first element keeps its name. So this first one is potassium. And the second element in K2S is sulfur. Well, I drop the ending and add a IDE, so it becomes potassium sulfide. Now this next one is magnesium. And this is iodine. Iodine drops the ending and adds IDE, so it becomes magnesium iodide. So just one letter change there in iodine. The N turns to a D. Becomes iodide. I'm going to pause the video here quickly, let you write down these last two in your notes, and then go ahead and play the video ahead and see if you got them right. All right, this next one, Al. I know this looks like a capital I, but this is Al, so this is aluminum. Bromine turns to bromide, aluminum bromide. Finally, Cs is cesium. Disregard the 3 because the amount in an ionic substance doesn't matter. It's just cesium. Cesium nitride. Nitrogen drops the ending and adds IDE. Now, naming is if you have the formula and you write down the words or the names to the compounds. But this is the opposite. This is backwards. This is writing formulas if you know the names. And we've already done this a little bit anyway, but we haven't started with the name. We started with the ions and we balance the charges, right? The most important thing is balancing charges. Well, you've got to basically come up with the ions and then balance the charges. So instead of symbols to words, we're going to go words to symbols. So here's how this process works. You first write down the charges of each of the elements. This is why we practiced this in a previous video lesson or in a previous classroom lecture. Calcium is Ca, and I look on the periodic table and I notice that it has 2 valence electrons, and it will lose them to become 2+. Fluorine is a halogen, and it has 7 valence electrons and will gain an electron to become 1-. And when I combine these to make calcium fluoride, I have to make sure that I balance the charges. So if you want to do the math version or the crisscross, where the 1 goes here and the 2 goes here, what you end up with is CaF2. So that's the answer. That's the formula from the name. Let's try another one, lithium oxide. Lithium is 1+ because it's an alkali metal, and it will lose 1 electron. Oxygen, as you know, has 6 valence electrons, and it will gain 2 to become a 2- charge. So if we apply the crisscross, 2 down here, 1 down here, what we get is Li2O, and that's the formula for lithium oxide. Now, once again, I'm going to pause the video and let you work through these last two. Then you can go ahead and play the video back and see if you got them right. All right, so strontium is one of those metals that is in group 2, just like calcium, so it's a 2+. Phosphide, IDE ending, but it's phosphorus, is a 3-. So this one's going to be a little bit tricky, right? Put the 2 down here, put the 3 down here, and what we get is Sr3P2. That's the formula for strontium phosphide. Finally, we get to this last example. And remember on the last slide or the last page earlier in the video, I talked about how the first element is usually a metal. This is the one case it's not a metal. Hydrogen, as we know, is listed over there along with the metals in group 1, which means that hydrogen has 1 valence electron. And hydrogen, like all the other group 1 metals, will lose that electron to become a 1+ charge. Hydrogen is the only element that is a nonmetal that will become a positively charged ion. And we will treat it just like any other metal. So hydrogen is a cation, +1, and bromine is a anion, and it becomes a 1-. And with 1+ and 1-, that means that they will just simply cancel each other out and become HBr. But I wanted to use this example to show you that the first element isn't always a metal. Sometimes it's a nonmetal in the case of hydrogen. Well, that takes care of this video lesson. Thanks for watching.